Today, I'm going to try to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Red using only poison types. Rules are in the description. The first thing I'm going to point out, I accidentally have blue version on my overlay, just ignore that. The reason I'm playing red version today is because Ekans is exclusive to red, and while I am going to miss out on the Bellsprout line by not playing blue, we still at least get the Oddish line in Pokemon Red. Version exclusives aside, I think poison types got a bad reputation in Generation 1 because of one type, the Psychic type. The most powerful type in Generation 1. The type that has the strongest Pokemon in the game that players couldn't wait to get their hands on once they beat the game. And we're going to have to face our fair share of Psychic types in this one. Will we be able to get this one across the finish line? Let's find out. One last thing I want to cover before we get into this run, I'm using a Gen 2 color palette on the Generation 1 game. Why? Because I want to. If you want to play Generation 1 with a Gen 2 color palette, if you look it up in Google, it's probably the first or second link. Now, let's begin. No need for the universal Pokemon randomizer today. Our starter is going to be Bulbasaur, who's part poison type, and we can get encounters fairly early. On Route 22, I catch myself a Nidoran male, and I get lucky before entering Viridian Forest as I get a Weedle on Route 2. As I train up towards Brock's level cap, Weedle evolves into a Kakuna and then into Beedrill. I can challenge the Rock-type specialist one level below his cap, which is the level that Bulbasaur learns Vine Whip at, and you see that it makes quick work of both Geodude and Onix. While battling my way through Route 3, we get an evolution, as Nidoran evolves into a Nidorino, and we could get a Nidoking as soon as Mount Moon, but I'm going to wait to evolve it. Mount Moon is also the home of our next encounter, Zubat. While this thing isn't going to make the final roster, and while it's unfortunate that Crobat doesn't exist in Generation 1, it has a place on the team for now. While in Mount Moon, I make sure to grab the Mega Punch TM along with 2 Moonstones, along with the Dome Fossil. Shortly after arriving in Cerulean, we have another evolution, as Bulbasaur evolves into Ivysaur. The patch of grass on Route 4 outside of Cerulean is also the home of our next encounter, Ekans, which took me 10 minutes to find. Arbok is a Pokemon that I'm looking forward to using in this Nuzlocke. I actually think it's a bit underrated for a solo run, and I need to revisit it, because the run I did with it is about 2 to 2.5 years old now. It needs a redo. I bring the team up to just under Misty's level cap of 21 and challenge the Water-type specialist, and you might think this is going to be Ivysaur's time to shine, but it's actually Beedrill's, because at level 20, Beedrill learns Twin Needle, the best bug move in Generation 1, and the best move that it learns in terms of stab coverage. Misty doesn't bother attacking with Staryu as 2 uses of Twin Needle take out her lead star, and she sends out her ace Starmie, who's weak to the bug-type move, and 2 uses of it also take it out, earning us the Cascade badge. The rival battle on Nugget Bridge isn't too difficult, which is nice. Nidorino is able to solo his team thanks to Horn Attack being a decent option for this point in the game, and I don't even get pelted with sand attacks by the annoying bird. And another plus side is that his Abra doesn't have any attacking moves, although that's going to change in the next battle. On Route 24, we can get our next encounter, an Oddish, and while Vileplume isn't the powerhouse that Victreebel is, it's still a decent Pokemon, and I'm excited to use it on the team. I want to highlight this battle against the last before Bills, because we almost have our first death of the run. Due to battling through the previous trainers, Ekans is on half health, and Oddish's Absorb deals pretty pathetic damage due to it being a weak move as is and poison resisting grass. But the following Pidgey does a bit more damage with Quick Attack, and it hits me with a Sand Attack as well, and that Sand Attack comes back to bite me against her final Oddish as it gets me down to 4 HP. A critical hit from Absorb would kill my Snake, so I swap to Beedrill to finish off the Weed Pokemon. And the last is just the beginning of the next few battles I'm going to show. Against the Innocent Bystander Rocket, we have our technically second encounter with the Psychic type, but his Drowsy is the first that we've faced that can actually attack us. But thankfully, one use of Twin Needle takes out the Psychic type, but the true prize is the TM for Dig. And while it's very unfortunate that the Nidos can't learn Dig in Generation 1, thanks Game Freak for fixing this in Generation 3 so that I have a good option in Fire Red and Leaf Green, Ekans can learn it, and the ground type coverage will be useful for our Snake. The last battle I'm going to briefly mention is the junior trainer before Vermilion with a Spearow and Raticate, and I almost lose Nidoran Nidorino to his Raticate's Hyper Fang. Had it crit, we probably would be saying bye to who I think will be the MVP of this run. Not wanting to lose Nidorino, I swap to Oddish, who puts the Rap to sleep, and although it does wake up and bring me down to low orange health, Absorb is able to take out the dangerous rat. On the SSN, it's usual business. I head straight for the room on the left to battle the one youngster so I can grab the TM for Body Slam. Something about my play I've noticed in these Nuzlocks when it comes to TMs, I tend to hold on to them for way too long, usually saving them before the league, and even then, sometimes I end up not using those TMs, which ends up happening with Body Slam in this playthrough, and that's something I want to see myself get better with. Yes, holding on to TMs can be a good thing, but sometimes you need to just pull the trigger and possibly regret the decision later. But TMs aside, we also have 3 evolutions on the team, which all happen right under Lieutenant Surge's level cap of 24, with Ekans evolving into Arbok, Zubat evolving into Golbat, and Oddish evolving into Gloom. I then take on my rival, and his Abra is now a Kadabra that's armed with Confusion, which could be seriously detrimental to the team if it were to hit with that. And things don't start off too well for me, as Horn Attack does about a third to Pidgeotto as it hits me with Sand Attack. Not wanting to continue with my accuracy lowered, I swap to Beedrill. Pidgeotto is able to bring me down to low orange health with a combination of Quick Attack and Gust, as a combination of Fury Attack and Twinneedle take out the lead bird. Raticate is next, and I don't want this thing going for Hyper Fang and possibly KOing my Bee, so I swap to Arbok, who's able to take it down with 2 bites. Kadabra follows, and I was a bit worried about this thing, but Arbok outspeeds and Dig is more than enough to one-shot it, and his final Pokemon Charmeleon, who's weak to the ground-type move. With Lieutenant Surge up next, I decided now is the time to evolve Nidorino into Nidoking, to have immunity to his electric-type moves, and I think this might have been the fastest I've ever solved this trash can puzzle. I love just having this auto-solved in my solo runs. I should just start modding this out in my Nuzlocks as well. All that aside though, Surge is a very easy gym leader. With immunity to his electric attacks, the only Pokemon who is really a threat is Voltorb, with its Sonic Boom to deal a consistent 20 damage. But 2 Horn Attacks take out the wannabe Pokeball as Nidoking begins to thrash, taking out his 2 electric rodents to earn me the Thunder Badge. But more importantly, the TM for Thunderbolt. Just gonna teach this to Nidoking right now, and done. I've got to point out a few things in Rock Tunnel. The first, I forgot to buy repels prior, and to quickly jump to the second, I also forgot to trade in the bike voucher for a bicycle, and it's pretty annoying traveling so slow and getting an encounter every 5 steps. If I had did this in a solo run, I probably would have restarted the entire run, but in a Nuzlocke, I'm going to suck it up and keep on trucking. But the third thing to point out is this Pokemaniac. Slowpoke hits decently hard with Confusion, and I barely missed the 2-hit KO with Vine Whip, as its next Confusion brings me to 5 HP. It would have sucked to lose Ivysaur before it got to its final evolution, Venusaur. Let's jump ahead to Celadon though. I can head to the top of the department store, buy each drink and get the TMs for Ice Beam, Rock Slide, and Tri Attack, the last of which I can sell for extra cash. Let's go ahead and teach Ice Beam right now, and done. I also make sure to pick up a Pokédoll and a Leaf Stone for Gloom later. After heading to the game corner and picking up all the high money items in the Rocket Hideout, which we will be coming back to the game corner later, it's time to take on Giovanni, and with Ice Beam and Thunderbolt on Nidoking's moveset, it makes quick work of his team. Before taking on Erica, since I have the Sylph Scope in hand, I want to head to Pokemon Tower to grab an additional encounter. I do have to take on the rival first, and while Arbok starts this battle off, it's Nidoking that takes all the glory. Ice Beam and Thunderbolt give me super effective damage against 3 of his 5 Pokemon, while Thrash is more than enough for Kadabra and Charmeleon. If only this thing got Dig, but at least we'll get access to Earthquake later on. With the rival out of the way, I can go to the 3rd floor and find our next encounter, and one I'm excited to use in this playthrough, Ghastly. Thank you Game Freak for making all of the Gen 1 Ghost part poison types. It evolves at level 25 under Erica's level cap of 29 into Haunter, and through a trade, because I forgot to enable impossible evolutions when creating the ROM, we can get its final evolution soon after, Gengar. And Gengar is going to get a huge upgrade to its moveset as I head to Saffron City and talk to Mr. Psychic and grab the TM for Psychic. And Psychic is able to 2-shot all of Erica's Pokemon, while one-shotting Tangela thanks to a crit. I will say, it is a bit annoying that Rap can still hit ghost types and plays the animation finalization, even though it deals no damage. Things really open up now. We have some more encounters we can grab, evolutions we can get, and I'm going to cover all of that. I head to Route 12 for a few things. First, I stopped by the fishing guru's house for the super rod, which I really don't need because our water encounter is going to be Tentacool no matter what. But if I continue south, I can cut down a tree for this patch of grass for our next encounter, which thanks to the power of video editing, we can find right away, a Venonat. Venomoth was great in the hardcore bug monotype Nuzlocke I did in late 2024, and hopefully the channel mascot for Scott's Thoughts can find its way to the final team, but it's going to have a lot of competition. After capturing Venonat, I head back to Celadon where I can find this guy who lost all his money off those FanDuel and Kalshi ads and sponsorships who gives me the coin case. I then head to the game corner and purchase 50 coins at a time until I have 1200, which I can then use to purchase myself a Nidorina from the prize corner. I used the Moonstone I picked up earlier right away to evolve it into a Nidoqueen, because every king needs his queen. Heading down Cycling Road towards Fuchsia, I fish myself up a Tentacool, and this thing is going to be a huge party member. Shortly after arriving in Fuchsia City and going through the Safari Zone, we have two more evolutions, with Ivysaur evolving into a Venusaur and Tentacool evolving into a Tentacruel. Even though Koga is a poison type specialist like us, the two mandatory trainers to reach him are jugglers with psychic types, and things get awfully close for our girl Nidoqueen, as Kadabra outspeeds and rips a Psybeam that crits, nearly one-shotting our queen, bringing her to 25 HP. While Body Slam does one-shot the frail psychic type, I have one final Drowsy to deal with. The first two were one-shots thanks to critical hits, and I roll the dice with this one. I don't get a crit, but I do paralyze it, and it gets caught in paralysis to continue the deathless streak. Thankfully, the second juggler doesn't give me the same scare as the first, despite having a fully evolved psychic type on his team in Hypno, and Koga, as you would expect, folds when it comes to psychic moves. I do have the opportunity to learn Dream Eater during this battle, which I do teach. If I didn't use the Thunderbolt TM on Nidoking already, Gengar would definitely be a mon I'd consider using it on. There's still the TM for Mega Drain in my back pocket for it, along with the Thunder TM in the power plant. As Gym Leader Matt would say, it's time for the brisk swim down to Cinnabar Island. The Pokemon Mansion is the last place where we can get an encounter. We're either going to get something from the Weezing line or Muck line, and once my Repel runs out, what do we get? A Coughing. Weezing surprisingly has pretty high attack, defense, and special for a Gen 1 poison type, but the one thing it lacks that Muck has is a badge boosting move. While in the mansion, I'm also going to grab the TM for Blizzard. There's a lot I could say about this move right now, but to give you the TLDR, I end up teaching it to Tentacruel. I am going to battle Blanewell here, but we have 3 evolutions beforehand, with Venonat evolving into a Venomoth, Coughing evolving into Weezing, and with Gloom learning Petal Dance at level 38, I can use the Leaf Stone I bought earlier to evolve it into Vileplume. The battle against Blaine is what you would expect. I have a strong water type in Tentacruel. I have a badge boosting move in Barrier, although it's not boosting my special yet, and I have Surf, which Surf Go Burr, but I also get the TM for Fire Blast for winning this battle, which I end up slapping on Nidoqueen. Before I head to Silphco though, I'm going to head to the power plant because I want to grab the Thunder TM. I could teach this move to either Gengar or Nidoqueen, and I end up going with Nidoqueen just to give her some additional coverage. Gengar, while a great Pokemon, really doesn't need anything other than Hypnosis and Psychic for our party, and I feel like the Nidos and Tentacruel are going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting later on. After I grab what I need, it's time to head to Silphco, and there are a few items I'm going to be picking up. The first is the key card for obvious reasons. I then head to the 10th floor and grab the Earthquake TM, and then backtrack for the Swords Dance TM. The battle against the rival is quite the ride. I was hoping that Nidoking would just solo his team, but I accidentally click Thunderbolt instead of Ice Beam on Execute, and it paralyzes me with Stun Spore. Can't have my speed cut for Alakazam or Gyarados, so I swap to Nidoqueen, and these annoying eggs do the same to her. I burn them to the ground with a Fire Blast before I swap to Venusaur as the rival sends out Gyarados. Venusaur is going to set up the good old Leech Seed Toxic strat, but Toxic is replaced by Poison Powder before I swap to Tentacruel, and while Gyarados is able to bring our poisonous jellyfish to about half health, I just need Tentacruel to set up against it so that our speed and special are boosted for Alakazam. The strat was to wrap it down and then go for Surf, but I miss my second use of Wrap, and Alakazam's Psybeam thankfully doesn't crit because that would have resulted in a death, and I don't want to lose Tentacruel. I roll the dice with Surf and it gets a crit, which I don't think mattered. And of course, Surf takes care of Charizard. I don't think I need to talk about Giovanni, but I do need to talk about Sabrina since she has a type advantage over us, but I just leave my cursor on Earthquake. And let me just say, thank God her Alakazam doesn't have Psychic, although if Psybeam had crit, we might be saying,
"Long live the king."
I don't have anything to say about the final Giovanni battle either, and the only reason I'm showing it is to give Vileplume some screen time. I don't believe we've seen it since it was just an Oddish, and I do end up swapping to Nidoqueen. I still have Bubble Beam on this thing's moveset, and I don't know why I didn't just teach this thing Surf once I got that move. Probably holding out thinking I was going to teach it something else, but I do correct this before the league and teach it Surf. We do have a battle against our rival before the league, and I'll admit, I play this one in the least optimal way. I could have just soloed his team with Tentacruel, but I swapped to Venusaur to give it some screen time, and this thing's moveset has very little synergy. Razor Leaf, a move that will always crit due to Venusaur's base speed, Growth, which is a nice badge boosting move, but when your only attacking move is a guaranteed crit, it doesn't help, Poison Powder and Leech Seed, which I could have swapped out either of them for Body Slam because the other will be replaced by Sleep Powder once we reach level 55, but as you can see as I've been yapping, we've made it to Charizard, and I decide to swap to Arbok, who's had quite the moveset overhaul. Charizard nearly takes out our Cobra with Flamethrower, bringing it to 6 HP, but Rock Slide is 4 times super effective, and you know how this one ends. With the team brought up to just under Lorelei's level cap of 56, this is who I'm bringing in. We have our starter Venusaur with Razor Leaf, Growth, Leech Seed, and Sleep Powder. I do have the TMs for Mega Drain, Body Slam, and Mimic in my bag for some flexibility for this thing. Our ghostly boy Gengar with Psychic, Dream Eater, Nightshade, and Hypnosis. The Queen herself, Nidoqueen with Body Slam, Surf, Fire Blast, and Thunder. The Speedrunner's Choice Nidoking with Thrash, Earthquake, Ice Beam, and Thunderbolt. Tentacruel, the poisonous jellyfish with Surf, Blizzard, Wrap, and Barrier. And finally, Arbok with a very interesting moveset in Dig, Rock Slide, Wrap, and Fissure. This is the team, and I'm confident they'll be able to get through the league with no problem, especially because the poison typing can mess with the AI of a few of the league members, starting with the first member Lorelei, who leads with Dugong. This thing will only spam Rest because of our team's poison typing, but as you saw, it doesn't even get a chance to use an attack in battle, and Venusaur has an easy time in this one. I knock out her first 2 Pokemon quickly and then set up Growth on Slowbro since it's only going to spam Amnesia. Since I can't one-shot Jinx or Lapras, I want to make sure I can tank Ice Punch and Blizzard, and as long as neither freeze, which they don't, this battle is a simple one. This takes us to Bruno, which is another easy battle. With Tentacruel, I set up Barrier for badge boost and just keep my cursor on Surf. We don't need to talk about Bruno anymore. And this brings us to Agatha. Against her, I'm going to fight Ghost with Ghost. While Psychic has to 2-shot her Gengars, although I do get a crit on the final one, spoiler alert, she doesn't troll me with Sleep or Confusion, so like Bruno, this is an easy one. This brings us to Lance. Normally, if you have Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, he's a foregone conclusion, but Nidoking is part ground type, which makes us a juicy target for Hydro Pump, and after Thunderbolt fails to get the one-shot twice, Gyarados makes us pay with Hydro Pump, which 100 to 0s me, our first death of the run, and it's our MVP the King. No. I am able to solo the rest of Lance's team with Tentacruel, but I was hoping for a deathless run. Oh well. Finally, the Pokemon Champion. I'm going to lead Tentacruel in this one, and I want to fully set up even though I'm going to level up after his second Pokemon, but that Pokemon is Alakazam, who I want to be set up for obvious reasons. Once I'm set up, I rip a Blizzard to one-shot the annoying bird, and next is the dangerous Psychic type. Fast and armed with a high crit rate and the strongest move for a Psychic type in Psychic, I want to wrap this thing down and finish it with a Surf, but like in the Silph rival battle, I miss my second wrap. Alakazam goes for Reflect, which is going to lessen the damage from Wrap, so like before, I roll the dice with Surf, which leaves it on a Sliver. Alakazam rips a Psychic and I hold my breath. It doesn't crit, dealing just under half, and doesn't get a special drop. I can finish it off from here, and the rest of the battle shouldn't be a struggle. Surf is going to one-shot Rhydon, and while I have to two-shot Exeggutor with Blizzard, and one of them misses, which is a bit unfortunate, it just misses Hypnosis. I would have preferred to have that third use of Blizzard for Gyarados, who's a 3-shot with the move, but 2 Blizzards and a Surf get the job done. Last is his ace Charizard, who falls to 1 use of Surf. We did it. We beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Blue using only the Poison type, and this was a really fun run. I enjoyed using both of the Nidos on my team, although I couldn't get through this one deathless. We're nearly halfway through all of the types in Generation 1 for this Nuzlocke series. Really more than halfway, because I don't know if I want to do the Dragon or Ghost typing, since it's just the Ghastly and Dratini line, and I've actually finished this one up a bit early. I'm not sure when I'm going to release it, or if it's going to release before or after the Water type Nuzlocke, but I cover some things in that one in case this comes out prior, so I'll just leave it there. I just try to schedule these in solo runs for every other week just to have some variety, but there may be a time where I have to do one or the other back to back, but aside from that, I hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you for the continued support on the channel, and I believe it was Tainted Child who asked about this one over a year ago, and yeah, it was, so here you go. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, another big thanks to BitBlitz for letting me use that remake of Toxic that was in the beginning of the video. Once again, I'll have the link down below. Special shout out to the channel members, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.